The mistake. Marcus Reed had worked on the Keshri orbital refinery for almost 2 years, long enough to stop marveling at the sight of 3 suns rising simultaneously through the observation ports, and long enough to know that mandatory medical checkups were just another part of life in deep space. The facility floated in a stable orbit around a resource-rich asteroid belt, processing rare minerals that powered half the colony worlds in this sector. It was dangerous work, profitable work, and work that required humans and aliens to cooperate in ways that would have seemed impossible just a generation ago. The medical wing occupied the central hub of the station, where artificial gravity remained constant at 1 standard unit regardless of the refinery's rotation. Marcus walked past the usual mix of species waiting for treatment. A pair of insectoid creche workers clicked mandibles in what might have been conversation or complaint. 3 human technicians argued about shift schedules. A lone Velthran sat motionless in the corner, their silver-blue skin catching the light in ways that always reminded Marcus of moonlight on water. His datapad chimed with appointment confirmation, and Marcus checked in at the automated kiosk, answering the same questions he answered every 3 months about potential exposure to toxic materials, radiation levels in his work zones, and whether he'd experienced any unusual symptoms. The routine was mind-numbing but necessary. Space had 1,000 ways to kill you, and most of them were invisible. A voice called his name, lilting and musical in the way Velthran voices always sounded to human ears. Marcus looked up to see a nurse approaching, her identification badge reading, Sierra Nelthvar, Medical Technician 3rd Class. She was tall even by Velthran standards, easily 7 feet, with the characteristic silver-blue skin and large, dark eyes that seemed to contain entire nebulae. Her movements were fluid and graceful as she gestured for him to follow. They walked in silence to a private examination room, walls lined with equipment that bridged multiple species medical technologies. Sierra moved efficiently, pulling up his medical records on the central display, and Marcus noticed that her hands trembled slightly as she worked. Dark circles shadowed those vast eyes, and her skin seemed duller than it should have been. Rough shift? Marcus asked, settling into the examination chair. He'd learned that making conversation helped pass the time during these appointments. Sierra glanced at him, and something flickered across her face. Gratitude maybe, or surprise that he'd noticed. Triple rotation, she said softly. 3 of our staff were reassigned to the new mining outpost. We are covering their duties until replacements arrive. That's brutal. You holding up okay? She didn't answer immediately, instead focusing on preparing the standard radiation resistance booster that all refinery workers received quarterly. The injection would strengthen human cells against the constant low-level radiation exposure that came with processing certain mineral types. It was routine, simple, something Sierra had probably done hundreds of times. I am managing, she finally said, though her voice lacked conviction. She moved to the refrigerated medical storage unit, inputting her access code. The door hissed open, revealing rows of color-coded vials arranged by species and treatment type. Human medications occupied the left section, marked with blue labels. Velthran compounds filled the right side, labeled in silver. Marcus watched her reach for a vial, then hesitate. Her hand hovered between 2 sections, and for just a moment, exhaustion seemed to wash over her features. She selected a vial and turned back to him, already loading it into the injection mechanism with practiced efficiency. This will feel cold going in, Sierra said, her voice falling into the rehearsed pattern of medical explanations. You may experience minor discomfort at the injection site. Avoid heavy lifting for the next hour to allow proper absorption. Marcus rolled up his sleeve, exposing his upper arm. The antiseptic wipe was cold, the needle's entry a brief sting he barely registered. Sierra depressed the plunger smoothly, and Marcus felt the usual chill of medication entering his system. It was over in seconds. Sierra disposed of the empty injection cartridge, then froze. The change was instant and terrifying. Her silver-blue skin paled to almost white, and those enormous eyes widened until Marcus could see white all around the dark irises. Her hand, still holding the empty vial, began to shake violently. No, she whispered, the word barely audible. She turned to the medical storage unit, still open behind her, and her other hand came up to press against her mouth. No, no, no. What's wrong? Marcus asked, his stomach suddenly tight with instinctive dread. Sierra didn't respond. She was staring at the vial in her hand, then at the storage unit, then back at the vial. Her breathing had become rapid and shallow, and Marcus noticed that her skin had started to emit a faint phosphorescent glow, something he'd only seen once before when a Velthran engineer had nearly died in a decompression accident. Sierra, what's going on? She turned to face him, and Marcus had never seen anyone look so utterly terrified. She crossed the small room in 2 long strides, her hands gripping his shoulders hard enough to hurt. When she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper, urgent and desperate. This wasn't for humans. The words took a moment to penetrate. Marcus felt his brain trying to process the implications while his body remained oddly calm, as if the danger hadn't quite registered yet. What do you mean it wasn't for humans? The injection. I gave you the wrong medication. Sierra's hands were still gripping his shoulders, and he could feel them trembling. I was tired, distracted. I reached for the wrong vial. That was Velthrin neural serum, not human radiation treatment. Okay, Marcus said slowly, his mind racing. What does that mean? What's it going to do to me? Sierra released his shoulders and stepped back, her hands pressing against her temples. I do not know. There is no data. No human has ever received Velthrin neural serum. Our neural pathways are completely different. Our biochemistry operates on different principles. This medication is designed to enhance Velthrin's psychic receptivity, to strengthen our ability to sense electromagnetic fields and emotional resonances. And for humans? Unknown. Possibly nothing. Your body might simply reject it, metabolize it, excrete it. Or, she stopped, unable to continue. Or my brain could have a very bad reaction, Marcus finished for her. The reality of the situation was starting to sink in now, a cold weight settling in his chest. What kind of bad reaction are we talking about? Sierra had moved to the medical terminal, her fingers flying across the interface as screens filled with molecular structures and compatibility analyses. Seizures. Neural degradation. Synaptic cascade failure. In worst-case scenarios, complete neurological collapse. Marcus took a slow breath, forcing himself to think clearly despite the rising panic. How long until we know if that's going to happen? The serum acts quickly. If you are going to have a severe reaction, symptoms will manifest within 4 to 6 hours. After that, it will have been fully integrated or expelled. She pulled up more data, her movements becoming frantic. I need to monitor you. Constant observation. If you start to show signs of distress, I can initiate emergency protocols. Why aren't you calling for emergency medical support right now? Marcus asked, though he thought he already knew the answer. Sierra's hands stilled on the terminal. She didn't turn to look at him. If I report this, I will be terminated immediately. Not just dismissed from my position. Deported. My medical license will be permanently revoked. I will be sent back to Velthros Prime. And that's bad. My family arranged a bonding contract for me there. A prestigious medical position in service to a high-ranking clan. It is not a choice. It is an obligation I fled to avoid. If I am sent back, my life ceases to be my own. Now she did turn, and Marcus saw desperation warring with shame in her expression. I know this is selfish. I know I am asking you to risk your life to protect my career. But I am begging you. Please, give me these hours to monitor you. If anything goes wrong, I will call for help immediately, consequences be damned. But if you are stable, if the serum simply passes through your system harmlessly, then no one needs to know about my mistake. Marcus stood up from the examination chair, testing his balance and coordination. Everything felt normal, frustratingly ordinary given the circumstances. You want me to gamble my life on the hope that alien psychic medication won't kill me, in exchange for keeping quiet about the accident that might kill me? Do you see the problem with this plan? Yes, Sierra said simply. I see it clearly. I also see that I have no other options. The medication is already in your system. Reporting it now changes nothing about your exposure. It only determines whether my career ends today or continues. Marcus studied her carefully. Beneath the fear and desperation he could see competence. She had immediately shifted into problem-solving mode, pulling up research, formulating monitoring protocols. She was terrified, but she wasn't paralyzed. And something in her situation resonated with him. He'd left Earth to escape his own set of obligations and expectations, had chosen the dangerous freedom of deep space over the suffocating safety of a predetermined life. For conditions, he said. 1. You stay with me the entire time. No leaving for other patients, no distractions. 2. You give me complete honesty about every symptom, every concern. 3. At the first sign of real trouble, you call for help regardless of consequences. And 4. If I survive this, you owe me the best meal this station can provide. Relief flooded Sierra's features. Agreed. All of it. Thank you, Marcus. I swear I will keep you safe. Let's hope you're right. Marcus sat back down. Start monitoring. Let's find out what happens when you give a human brain alien psychic enhancement drugs. Sierra pulled a portable medical scanner from the equipment cabinet, a sleek device that hummed softly as she activated it. She ran it slowly along his temples, studying the readouts with intense concentration. Heart rate elevated but within normal stress parameters. Blood pressure good. Neural activity standard for human baseline. No immediate signs of adverse reaction. How often are you checking? Every 15 minutes for the first 2 hours, then every 30 minutes after that if you remain stable. She pulled a chair close to his, their knees almost touching in the confined space. You must tell me immediately if you experience anything unusual. Dizziness, nausea, visual disturbances, auditory hallucinations, anything that feels wrong. They settled into an uneasy waiting game. Sierra performed her first few scans with methodical precision, each one showing the same reassuringly normal results. Marcus found himself talking to fill the silence, sharing stories about the refinery operations, the peculiarities of mining in zero gravity, the complex politics between different species working in close quarters. An hour passed. Then 90 minutes. Marcus was in the middle of explaining the technical details of mineral extraction when he stopped mid-sentence. What? Sierra's hand tightened on the scanner. What is wrong? Nothing's wrong exactly. It's just. Marcus tilted his head, focusing on something he couldn't quite name. Do you feel that? Feel what? There's a humming. Not a sound exactly, but like a vibration in the air. Coming from that direction. He pointed toward the wall that separated them from the main corridor. Something electrical. A lot of power running through conduits. Sierra stared at him. The main power distribution runs through that wall, but it is shielded. You should not be able to detect it. Well, I can. It's not just detect, I can almost see it. Like heat shimmer but different. Energy patterns. Marcus looked at his hands, flexing his fingers. This is weird, right? This is definitely weird. Sierra ran the scanner along his head again, and he watched her expression shift from concern to amazement. Your neural activity is changing. Not dangerously but significantly. Areas of your brain that are typically dormant in humans are showing increased electrical activity. Is that the serum working? I believe so. Velthrin neural enhancement awakens our ability to perceive electromagnetic fields, to sense the bioelectric signatures of living beings. You may be developing similar capabilities. She made rapid notes on her datapad. What else do you perceive? Marcus stood up, closing his eyes and extending his awareness in ways he'd never consciously tried before. The sensation was overwhelming and exhilarating. He could feel the power humming through the station systems like blood through veins. He could sense the presence of other people beyond the walls, their individual bioelectric signatures creating distinct patterns. There are 17 people in the waiting area, he said slowly, his eyes still closed. 3 of them are in pain. 1 has an elevated anxiety level. Someone is arguing with the receptionist and their anger is like red static. And you? He opened his eyes and looked at Sierra. You're terrified and hopeful at the same time. I can feel it radiating from you. Sierra's hands were shaking again, but this time with excitement rather than fear. This is extraordinary. The serum is not harming you. It is transforming you. You are developing Velthrin sensory abilities. Is that good or bad? I do not know. But it is fascinating. She ran another scan. Your vital signs remain stable. No indication of neural damage or degradation. Whatever is happening, your brain is adapting to it rather than rejecting it. Marcus sat back down, trying to process the flood of new sensations. How long does this last? 4 Velthrans, neural enhancement is permanent once fully integrated. But you are human. Your neurology may process this differently. Sierra checked her chronometer. We are past the critical danger window for acute reactions. If you were going to have a catastrophic response, it would have begun by now. So I'm probably not going to die? Probably not from the serum itself. She allowed herself a small smile. Though I cannot speak to the dangers of your work in the refinery. Marcus laughed, the sound surprising both of them. After this, refinery work seems pretty tame. He focused again on the strange new awareness, the sense of energy and life surrounding him. Sierra, what exactly was this serum supposed to do? Beyond just enhancement? She hesitated, choosing her words carefully. Velthrin society relies on empathic connections. Our ability to sense emotions and intentions in others is fundamental to our culture, our governance, our relationships. The neural serum strengthens those abilities, particularly in individuals who will serve in positions requiring deep understanding of others. Medical professionals, diplomats, counselors. You took this serum? All Velthran medical personnel do. It allows us to sense our patient's pain, to understand their distress beyond what they can verbalize. She met his eyes. I knew you were in danger the moment the medication entered your system because I could feel your bioelectric signature beginning to change. And now I can do the same thing. Marcus flexed his newfound awareness, marveling at the richness of information suddenly available to him. I can feel the entire station. Every person, every system. It's like going from black and white to color. It can be overwhelming at first, Sierra warned. You will need to learn to filter the input, to focus your attention selectively. Otherwise, the constant sensory information will exhaust you. Before Marcus could respond, his new awareness caught something that made him straighten in alarm. Deep in the station's infrastructure, far below the medical wing, he sensed an irregularity in the energy flow. A disruption that felt wrong, discordant, dangerous. Sierra, he said urgently. Something's not right. In the lower processing levels. The power distribution is fluctuating in a way that seems bad. She frowned. The system's monitor would alert us to any critical malfunctions. I'm telling you something is wrong. I can feel it. Marcus stood, his attention fixed on the distant anomaly. It's getting worse. Like a pressure building up, looking for release. Sierra pulled up the station system's monitoring on her terminal. For a long moment, she studied the displays, then her expression changed to alarm. You're right. There is a cascade beginning in the primary coolant system for processing Core 3. The automated systems have not flagged it yet because it is still within tolerance parameters, but if it continues... It will continue, Marcus said with absolute certainty. I can feel it escalating. The energy buildup is reaching critical levels. Sierra was already moving, pulling up emergency protocols. I must report this to engineering immediately. If Core 3 experiences coolant failure, the whole section will go critical, Marcus finished. How much time before that happens? Minutes? Perhaps 20 at most. The transformation. The alarm started exactly 17 minutes later, their strident wails confirming what Marcus's enhanced senses had already told him. By then, Sierra had alerted engineering, and Marcus had insisted on accompanying her to the lower processing levels despite her protests that he should remain under medical observation. But there was no time for caution, and Marcus knew with strange certainty that his newfound abilities might be the only thing standing between the station and catastrophe. They raced through corridors that seemed alive with information Marcus had never perceived before. Emergency lighting cast everything in red shadows, but beneath the visible spectrum, he could see the electromagnetic fields fluctuating wildly as automated systems struggled to contain the crisis. Other workers rushed past them, evacuating toward the emergency shelter zones, their bioelectric signatures blazing with fear and adrenaline. Engineering Command occupied a reinforced section near the station's central core, surrounded by blast shielding and redundant safety systems. Chief Engineer Okoro stood at the primary control terminal, her dark skin sheened with sweat, her hands flying across holographic displays that showed the processing core's status in increasingly alarming detail. 3 other engineers clustered around secondary stations, their voices overlapping in urgent technical discussion. What's the situation? Sierra demanded as they entered. Okoro glanced up, her expression grim. Coolant pump 3 alpha failed. Backup systems engaged, but they're running at 60% efficiency. Core temperature is climbing and we can't shut down the reaction fast enough. If we breach thermal limits, the containment fails and we get an uncontrolled fission event, Marcus interrupted. Which at current reaction levels would take out this entire section of the station. Every eye in the room turned to him. Okoro's expression shifted from grim to incredulous. How did you know our current reaction levels? That data is in the classified engineering database. Marcus ignored the question, moving to the main display. Through his enhanced perception, he could see far more than the sensors were reporting. The core's energy signature blazed like a small sun in his awareness, its heat and radiation contained by magnetic fields that were beginning to warp under the strain. Coolant lines formed a complex network around it, but one entire section was growing dark as the failed pumps starved it of circulation. The sensors are wrong, he said, pointing to a section of the schematic. They're showing coolant flow at 42% in junction 7, but it's actually down to 28% and dropping. The magnetic bottle is starting to deform on the eastern quadrant. That's impossible, one of the engineers protested. The sensors are delayed, Marcus cut him off. "They're measuring conditions from 90 seconds ago. I'm telling you what's happening right now." Okoro studied him with sharp intelligence, then made a decision. "Assume he's right. If Eastern Quadrant containment is failing, we need to emergency vent the core chamber and inject boron dampening solution immediately. But that requires manual activation of the secondary coolant system. Someone has to go into the core access corridor and physically open the valves. The corridor will be flooded with radiation," Sierra said, her voice tight with horror. "Anyone who goes in there will receive a lethal dose in minutes." "I'll go," Marcus said simply. "Absolutely not," Sierra grabbed his arm. "You have unknown alien medication in your system causing unpredictable neurological changes. You cannot possibly." "I can see the radiation," Marcus interrupted, meeting her enormous eyes. "Not with my eyes but with whatever these new senses are. I can see the safe paths, the areas where the shielding is still intact. I can navigate through there better than anyone else could." Chief Engineer Okoro was already pulling up schematics of the core access corridor. "Even with perfect navigation you'd still be exposed. The best suit we have would buy you maybe 10 minutes before the dosage becomes critical. Then I'll have to work fast." Marcus turned to Sierra, seeing the anguish in her expression, feeling it radiating from her bioelectric field. "This is why you gave me that serum. Not by accident. This is why it happened. You cannot believe that fate." "I don't know what I believe. But I know I can do this and I know no one else can." He squeezed her hand briefly, then turned to Okoro. "Get me suited up and tell me exactly what needs to be done." The radiation suit was bulky and uncomfortable, layers of lead-lined fabric that made movement awkward. Marcus could feel the suit's own electromagnetic signature interfering with his enhanced perception, creating blind spots in his awareness. But it couldn't block out the overwhelming energy radiating from the processing core, a beacon of power and danger that drew his attention like gravity. Okoro's voice crackled through the suit's communication system as Marcus entered the access corridor. "Straight ahead 40 meters, then left at junction 5. The manual valve assembly is on the right wall, marked with yellow hazard stripes. You'll need to turn all 3 wheels clockwise until they lock." "Understood." Marcus moved forward, his enhanced senses mapping the space around him in ways that had nothing to do with vision. Radiation poured through a crack in the wall plating to his left, invisible death that blazed in his awareness like fire. He shifted right, giving it wide berth. "Marcus, your dosimeter is already climbing," Sierra's voice came through, tight with worry. "You are at 12 rads and rising." "I know. I can feel it." And he could, the radiation touching his cells like millions of tiny needles, damage accumulating with each passing second. But his enhanced perception showed him something else too, patterns in the energy flow that suggested where the danger was most concentrated and where gaps existed in the deadly field. He reached junction 5 and turned left, immediately encountering a problem. The corridor ahead was flooded with radiation so intense it appeared as a solid wall in his awareness. The normal path was impassable. "There's too much radiation on the primary route," Marcus reported, already analyzing alternatives. "But there's a maintenance crawlway above. The shielding is intact there. I'm going up." "That's not on the schematics," Okoro protested. "It's there. I can see it." Marcus found the access panel, forced it open with trembling hands that had nothing to do with the suit's bulk. He pulled himself into the narrow space above, moving through darkness guided by senses that required no light. His dosimeter continued its relentless climb. 24 rads. 31. Numbers that represented invisible damage accumulating in his DNA, each count bringing him closer to the threshold where his body's repair mechanisms would be overwhelmed. But Marcus pushed the knowledge aside, focusing instead on the intricate dance of energy patterns around him. The crawlway emerged exactly where his enhanced perception had promised, directly above the valve assembly. Marcus dropped down, landing heavily in the cramped space. The 3 wheels were exactly as Okoro had described, each one requiring considerable force to turn. "I'm at the valves," he reported, gripping the first wheel. "Starting activation sequence now." The wheel resisted, decades of disuse making it stubborn. Marcus threw his weight into it, feeling the metal grudgingly begin to rotate. 1 full turn. 2. 3. The wheel suddenly spun freely as internal mechanisms engaged, and he heard the rush of coolant beginning to flow through the awakened system. "First valve open," Marcus gasped, already moving to the second wheel. His dosimeter read 53 rads, and he could feel his cells screaming in protest. But the core's energy signature was beginning to stabilize, the dangerous oscillations smoothing as coolant flowed into the starved sections. The second wheel turned more easily, as if encouraged by its companion's cooperation. Marcus counted the rotations, his hands mechanical despite the tremors beginning to affect his whole body. The lock engaged with a satisfying clunk. Second valve open. One more to go. His vision was beginning to blur, but his enhanced perception remained crystal clear. He could see Sierra in the engineering control room, her bioelectric field blazing with fear for him. Could sense Okoro's grim determination. Could feel the entire station holding its breath. The third will seem designed to resist specifically him. It wouldn't budge. Marcus braced himself against the wall and pulled with everything he had, feeling something in his shoulder give way with a spike of pain. But the wheel moved. Inch by grudging inch, it rotated. "Come on," Marcus gritted out through clenched teeth. "Come on, you stubborn piece of—" The wheel suddenly released, spinning freely as the final valve opened wide. Coolant flooded through the system with the sound of an angry ocean, and Marcus's enhanced senses showed him the core's energy signature immediately beginning to stabilize. The dangerous oscillations damped down, contained by the sudden influx of cooling medium. "All valves open," Marcus reported, his voice barely audible. "Core is stabilizing. Mission accomplished." "Get out of there now," Sierra commanded. "Your radiation exposure is critical." Marcus tried to move and discovered his legs wouldn't quite obey him properly. The crawlway seemed impossibly far above, and his radiation suit felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. "Might need some help with the extraction part," he managed to say. What happened next existed in Marcus's memory as a blur of pain and exhaustion. Strong hands in radiation suits pulled him from the access corridor, voices shouting medical terminology he didn't understand. He was vaguely aware of being rushed back through the station, of Sierra's face above him tight with concentration as she worked over him with medical equipment that hummed and beeped urgently. The medical bay's radiation treatment center became his world for the next several hours. Sierra administered cellular regeneration therapy, compounds that helped his body repair the damage the radiation had inflicted. His enhanced senses, rather than fading, seemed to intensify under the stress, showing him his own cells struggling to rebuild themselves, the delicate dance of DNA repair mechanisms working against time. "Am I going to die?" Marcus asked at one point, his voice rough from pain medication. Sierra looked down at him, her vast dark eyes reflecting both fear and hope. "No. The radiation exposure was severe but not lethal. You reached critical dose levels, but the cellular regeneration therapy is working. Your enhanced neural activity is actually helping, allowing your body to coordinate repair more efficiently than normal human physiology would permit. So the serum saved me twice. Once by giving me the abilities to navigate the radiation safely, and again by helping me survive the exposure. It appears so." Sierra's hand found his, her cool skin a relief against his feverish warmth. "Marcus, you saved the entire station. 4,000 people are alive because you prevented that core breach." "You saved them," Marcus corrected. "By giving me the wrong medication. Funny how that worked out." Over the next 2 days as Marcus recovered in the medical bay, the full story came out despite Sierra's protestations. Chief Engineer Okoro demanded to know how Marcus had acquired his extraordinary sensory abilities, and Marcus refused to lie about what had happened. He explained the mistaken injection, Sierra's fear, their agreement to monitor him privately, and the unexpected transformation that followed. The inquiry that resulted was thorough and uncomfortable. Station administrators questioned both Marcus and Sierra extensively, medical experts studied his condition with fascinated concern, and bureaucrats debated protocols and violations. But in the end, the facts were undeniable. Marcus had prevented a catastrophe that would have killed thousands. The accidental exposure to Velthrin neural serum had granted him abilities that no human had possessed before, and those abilities had proven invaluable. The final ruling came from the station director herself, a pragmatic woman named Chin who valued results over protocol. "Nurse Sierra Nelthvar, your error violated multiple medical safety regulations and put a patient at significant risk. Under normal circumstances, this would result in immediate termination and deportation." Sierra stood at attention, her face composed but her bioelectric field radiating resignation. Marcus, still recovering in a medical chair nearby, could feel her preparing to accept her fate. "However," Director Chin continued, "those same regulations acknowledge that extraordinary circumstances warrant extraordinary consideration. Your error resulted in Mr. Reed acquiring abilities that directly led to saving the station and everyone on it. Furthermore, your immediate recognition of the mistake and your subsequent monitoring of Mr. Reed prevented what could have been a medical catastrophe. You are hereby placed on 6 months probation with mandatory additional safety training, but you will retain your position and medical license. Relief washed through Sierra's bioelectric field so powerfully that Marcus could feel it from across the room. Thank you, Director. I will not disappoint you. See that you don't. Chin turned to Marcus. As for you, Mr. Reed, you're being reassigned. We need someone with your unique abilities in our safety monitoring division. You'll work with engineering to develop protocols for early detection of system failures. The pay grade is significantly higher, and you'll have access to the entire station's infrastructure. Marcus managed a weak smile. Does this mean I don't have to argue with mining equipment anymore? Consider yourself promoted out of that responsibility. Chen's expression softened slightly. You did good work, Reed. Very good work. Recover fully and report to your new position when medical clears you. After the officials left, Sierra sat down beside Marcus's chair. For a long moment, they were both silent, processing everything that had happened. Finally, Marcus spoke. So, about that dinner you owe me. I'm thinking we should go for something nicer than the cafeteria. I did save the station after all. That's got to be worth at least mid-range cuisine. Sierra's laugh was soft and genuine, the first truly relaxed sound he'd heard from her. I believe saving 4,000 lives merits high-range cuisine at minimum. There is a Velthran restaurant on the upper promenade. They serve dishes from my homeworld prepared correctly for the first time since I arrived here. Sounds perfect. Marcus smiled at her, both with his eyes and with the bioelectric warmth he could now project consciously. Though I should warn you, with these enhanced senses, I'll know if you're secretly horrified by my table manners. And I will know if you are secretly disgusted by Velthran cuisine, Sierra countered, her own bioelectric field glowing with amusement and affection. It seems we have both gained the ability to be completely honest with each other, whether we wish to or not. Maybe that's not such a bad thing. Marcus reached out and took her hand again, marveling at how he could now feel the warmth of her emotions flowing through the simple contact. Seems like honesty worked pretty well for us so far. Yes, Sierra agreed softly. It did. 2 weeks later, Marcus stood in the observation dome during the station's night cycle, looking out at the 3 suns setting in sequence beyond the asteroid belt. His enhanced senses showed him the cosmic radiation patterns dancing across the void, the electromagnetic fields of distant stars, the subtle gravitational waves created by the binary system's dance. The universe had become a symphony of energies and forces he'd never imagined he could perceive. Sierra joined him, her own enhanced senses allowing her to appreciate what he was experiencing. They stood together in comfortable silence. 2 beings who had found unexpected connection through mistake and crisis, watching the cosmos reveal its hidden beauty. Do you regret it? Sierra asked eventually. The accident, the transformation, all of it? Marcus considered the question seriously. His life had changed in ways he was still discovering. The constant sensory input was sometimes overwhelming, the weight of perception occasionally exhausting. But he could also experience reality with a richness that few beings could comprehend. He had saved thousands of lives. He had found purpose he hadn't known he was seeking. And he had found Sierra. No, he said finally. I don't regret any of it. Sometimes the best things come from mistakes. Sierra's hand found his, their bioelectric fields mingling in ways that transcended simple physical contact. Perhaps it was not a mistake at all. Perhaps some things are meant to happen, even if they occur through unexpected means. Maybe, Marcus agreed, pulling her closer. Or maybe we just got really, really lucky. I will accept lucky, Sierra said, resting her head against his shoulder. Lucky is sufficient. They stood together watching the universe unfold its secrets, 2 people transformed by accident into something neither could have anticipated, and both grateful for the strange path that had led them to this moment. The alien nurse had given him the wrong injection, had whispered her desperate plea for silence, and in doing so had set in motion events that would change both their lives forever. Sometimes, Marcus reflected, the wrong thing done for the right reasons in the wrong moment could become exactly right. The universe had a sense of humor about such things. And standing there with Sierra, feeling the vast cosmos singing through his enhanced awareness while her bioelectric warmth flowed through their joined hands, Marcus thought that maybe the universe's sense of humor wasn't so bad after all.